If you had to choose between a heavy bag filled with gold or a clay tablet engraved with words of wisdom, which would you choose? This was the question asked to a crowd of ancient Babylonians by a man named Arkad. Arkad was the richest man in Babylon. Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. So before I continue this story, I just want to let you know that this story comes from a book named The Richest Man in Babylon. I have the book right here actually. This book here. So the story I'm about to tell you comes from the chapter on the 5 laws of gold, which I will explain in a minute. So anyway, just to give you some context around the story, Arkad is the richest man in Babylon, and the king of Babylon has requested that he educate the poorest men in the city on how to become wealthy. So now I will continue the story of one of Arkad's lectures about the 5 laws of gold. So I'm not going to actually read the story word for word, but I'm just going to summarize what I got from the story, and then I'll tell you what the 5 laws are. And in this lecture, he gave a story about him and his son. Arkad was a very wealthy man who had a lot of estates and a lot of money and a lot of gold. So he said to his son one day, "I am wealthy, but you can only inherit my wealth if you prove yourself worthy of handling my wealth." So what he did to his son was he gave his son a bag of gold and a clay tablet engraved with 5 laws of gold. And he told his son to go away with these 2 things and come back 10 years later to see if he was worthy of keeping the wealth of his father, whether he's worthy of inheriting the wealth of his father. If he wasn't worthy of inheriting the wealth, then he would give the father, Arkad, would give his wealth away to the priest. So his son came back 10 years later after his father gave him just a bag of gold and a clay tablet with 5 laws. So he came back after 10 years and told him what had happened. The son had lost all of the gold in the first few years, and he lost it because he invested it in ways that were not as profitable as they made out to be. I believe he encountered a horseman that was in charge of horse races, and the son was convinced into buying a horse that was supposed to be the fastest horse and supposed to win bets. However, it turned out that this horse would only lose in races. So he spent a lot of gold on a horse, and he also betted on that horse. So not only did he lose the investment on the buying the horse, he also lost the investment from the bet, from the horse losing the race. So he ended up losing the gold in that thing, and then he also lost. He didn't lose all of it in that thing, but after a few bad investments, he was left with almost nothing. So he was left with no money at all, no gold. The gold that his father gave him had completely gone. All he had left was a clay tablet that had 5 laws engraved on it. And he was forced to get a job working to build the walls around the city of Babylon. So he was in charge of constructing walls around the city. So he was left with the clay tablet, and he ended up reading it, and he said that he wished he had read the 5 laws before investing the gold, because the 5 laws would later prove to generate him the gold back that he lost, and way more than what his father gave him, because he was laboring to build a wall, and he was under the management of a man that was in charge of ordering people to build the wall. And this man had an investment idea that was very well thought out and very well organized. And so the son was convinced but investing into this new business idea that his manager had, and about 10 or 20 men invested into the same business because they didn't have enough. They had to pool all of their gold together and all of their money. So the business idea was to mine copper and steel from a mine not far from the city, quite far, a few miles from the city, so that they could later sell that metal to the king to build the gates of the city out of that metal. And it proved to be profitable. He ended up making enormous fortunes with that, and ever since then he has kept investing his gold into safe places. So that by the time after the 10 years when he came back to his father, he had way more gold than he had at the beginning. He was able to return the gold, 1 ounce of gold for the bag of gold. No, he had 3 bags of gold. When he returned back to his father 10 years later, he gave 1 bag of gold to his father in exchange for the bag of gold that he gave him 10 years ago. And he gave 2 bags of gold in return of the 5 laws of wisdom, 5 laws of gold. So he valued the laws more than the actual gold itself, because the laws can generate more gold. So right now I'm just going to read to you the laws that he followed that enabled him to come back from losing all of his gold. So here are the 5 laws of the gold. So the first law: gold cometh gladly and in increasing quantity to any man who will put by not less than 1/10 of his earnings to create an estate for his future and that of his family. So put not less than 10% of your income to investing into an estate. And the second law is: gold labors diligently and contentedly for the wise owner who finds for it profitable employment, so that it can multiply, just like the flocks of the field. So you need to find a profitable employment for that gold. Don't just have it sitting in your wallet or your bank, or your safe. So 3, gold clings to the protection of the cautious owner who invests it under the advice of men wise in its handling. So if you are going to invest gold, make sure that you have advice from wise men. And gold slips away from the man who invests it in businesses or purposes with which he is not familiar, or which are not approved by those skilled in its keep. So if you're not familiar with a business or something that you're going to invest in, don't invest it into that thing, because you're going to lose it. If you don't understand your investment, you're going to lose the money. So gold flees the man who would force it to impossible earnings, or who follows the alluring advice of tricksters and schemers. So if you follow the advice of tricksters and schemers, the gold will flee from you. And if you try to force it onto impossible earnings, such as 1,000% returns or 900% returns, then that's unlikely to happen. So it would probably, the gold that you invest, even though it's a high reward investment, it also is a high risk investment. And if the investment goes wrong, the gold will flee from your pocket. You will lose it. So, and gold will also flee if you trust it to your own inexperience and romantic desires and investment. So if you just invest it into something that doesn't really make sense, really. So those are the 5 laws. So this one, the first law is just basically about saving 10% of your income to buy land. The second one is trying to find a use for your gold. And the third one is to find a use for your gold, but make sure that you have advice from wise people. And the fourth one is about being familiar with the way in which you're investing it. Do not invest in something you don't understand. And the fifth one is about not trying to chase large amounts of potential rewards, because an investment may have high rewards but also may be high risk. So that's it basically. So yeah, so let me know what you think of those laws. Those laws are the laws that his son followed to make sure that he was able to generate his wealth back. So yeah, anyway guys, I highly recommend reading this book. If you do want to get this book, I recommend buying it. It wasn't that expensive, it was less than £10, I think like £7 or £8. Yeah, so anyway guys, thanks for watching. Please hit the like button and the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.